Hello dear viewers, Namaskar. Welcome to Moksha Media. You are with Moksha Hiremat. Most of the readers of English literature don't know the Vachana composers in the language of Kannada. If you know not Vachana composers in the language of Kannada literature, that means you lose some valuable things in studying a literature in general. That is why it is inevitable to come to know Vachanakaras, especially the 12th century common era Vachanakaras in the language and literature of Kannada. In this background, I would like to say something about Muktayakka. Most of you may not know the name of Muktayakka. She was a Vachanakarti. She was a composer of Vachanas in the language of Kannada in the 12th century of Common Era. She was from Lakkundi in the district of Gadag, Karnataka. She was born and bred in that Lakkundi. And Lakkundi is a historical place. We can see the Shaiva and the Jain temples in Lakkundi. Of course, the place of Lakkundi takes us back to the history of Kalyana Chalukyas, who ruled Karnataka in particular and India in general. Of course, Muktayakka came from such a place. But you cannot remember Muktayakka without our brother Ajaganna. Because Muktayakka considered Ajaganna as his friend, philosopher, guide, and father. So, the name of Ajaganna with Muktayakka is inseparable. Of course, Ajaganna was an elder brother of Muktayakka. Her husband was from Masarakallu or Maslikallu. Now scholars come to the conclusion that it is Masarakallu in the Taluk of Devadurga in the district of Raichur, Karnataka. Of course, we don't know much about her husband. That Masarakallu in the Taluk of Devadurga in the district of Raichur, Karnataka comes in between Basava Kalyana and Lakkundi. Of course, Muktayakka was a mystic. It is very difficult to come to know that a woman at the time of 12th century of Common Era in the province of Karnataka would be a mystic. Because we cannot imagine it at that time. Of course, Muktayakka became a mystic due to the influence of her brother Ajaganna. Muktayakka was a contemporary of Allama Prabhu, Akka Mahadevi, and Basavanna and other Vachanakaras. You know, 12th century of Common Era in the language of Kannada and literature is very memorable, is very remarkable period. While studying particularly the literature of Kannada, we cannot go ahead without referring to the 12th century Vachana literature. So to that period, Muktayakka was belonged. That is, she was born and bred round about the circa of 1160 of Common Era. But of course, we don't know much about her personal life. It is concerned to not only Muktayakka but also other Vachanakaras. Because Vachanakaras, Shivasharanas, poets or Sufis at that time did not give that much of importance to their personal life because they were devotees, either Shiva or Vishnu or other famous personalities. So that is why we don't get that much of information regarding their lives. And Muktayakka is not an exception to this. Of course, Muktayakka had composed 37 vachanas, but we have 32 vachanas, that is 32 vachanas are found till this time, and Muktayakka used a signature at the end of each vachanas. That signature is Ajaganna Tande or Ajaganna. I have already told you the name of Muktayakka cannot be separated from the life and the influence of her elder brother Ajaganna. So that is why she took the signature of Ajaganna or Ajaganna Tande. Of course, even we have found 32 vachanas. They are almost all a reference to his elder brother Ajaganna in one way or another way. They are also referred to mysticism. Without mysticism, you cannot understand Ajaganna and Muktayakka. Of course, Ajaganna was a contemporary of Allama Prabhu, Akka Mahadevi and Basavanna. Even Allama Prabhu revered Ajaganna very much. It shows to what extent Ajaganna had influence on others. So, in this background, we try to understand Muktayakka. Of course, mysticism is a kind of learning, is a kind of education, is a kind of thing which cannot be explained that much of easily. Mysticism can be felt, but it is very difficult to understand and it is very difficult to explain what is understood also. Of course, that happens in so many cases and mysticism is one of them. So, mystic is a one who does not want to show anything outrightly and outside. He or she is an achiever in his or her own way. They don't want to show it to others. They are not showy. They don't want to have this marketplace. That is why most of them are away from the common people. Only the person who are in that field know something about that mystic and mysticism. Of course, in this way, Ajaganna and his sister Muktayakka led the life of mysticism, happiness, and peace. If we go through the Vachanas of Muktayakka, we will come to know to what extent she is associated with her brother Ajaganna. Sometimes those Vachanas appear to us as elegies to Ajaganna. An elegy is a kind of literature, is a form of literature. So that type of elegy we can see in the 12th century of Common Era in the history of Kannada language and literature. That is why whenever we go through the Vachanas of Muktayakka, we feel the sensitivity and sensibility of that elegy. So, in one way or another way, she refers to her brother Ajaganna because Ajaganna was everything to her. So, here I would like to quote some of her Vachanas. Putting knowledge into the jars, this mortal world is chewing it away. Putting knowledge into the jars, this mortal world is chewing it away. Not knowing how to retain knowledge, the whole world is lost. How can I live, brother? For I am a skeptic who sees both darkness and light. How can I live, brother? For I am a skeptic who sees both darkness and light. Your yoga showed me the mirror, blindfolding me, O Ajaganna. In this Vachana, Muktayakka tells us something about knowledge. Common people could have the knowledge, they can chew it, but they cannot practice it. Sometimes they are unable to experience it, unable to practice it, but they can gather the information. Especially in this digital world, we come to know gathering information itself is a knowledge. No. Knowledge is not only gathering information. It may be the first step of the knowledge. But knowledge in itself is not an information. It is beyond information. Of course, we gather a lot of information in this digital world. That helps to a little extent, no doubt about it. That is the first step. But we should go beyond that step, So common people keep it in their jaw and chew it. That is, common people gather the knowledge and sometimes they will destroy the knowledge or bad knowledge will destroy them also. So, if knowledge is found in the hands of the bad people, it will be destroyed and the bad people will use it for destruction also. That is one of the ways. So, that knowledge is in the hands of such persons nowadays. They don't know how to retain that knowledge. Whatever is good should be retained. But the people don't know how to retain that knowledge. If they retain that knowledge, they retain it for sake of the destruction, for sake of the negativity. So if you use knowledge for sake of the distraction, it doesn't become a knowledge in the strict sense. So that is why world is lost in such a knowledge. But she is a skeptic. She knows the dark side of the life, brighter side of the life. She knows the darkness and light. Being a skeptic, how could she live in the midst of these people? That was the problem to her. Of course, her problem is the problem of everyone also. When we are in the midst of such people, it is very difficult to lead a life, that to life of happiness and peace. Peace is made peace in such a situation. So, Muktayakka feels that thing in the midst of these people. That is why she asks her brother, how can she lead the life, how can she live with such people when you disappear from my life, when you are disappeared from life. So that is why she tells that Ajaganna showed her the path, that is the path of yoga. Of course, that yoga is a mirror, it is reflected like a mirror. It is blindfolded her. She is committed to that sort of yoga. She is committed to that knowledge of yoga. So, she says she is committed to the knowledge, or she is committed to that yoga, O Ajaganna. Then she tells in another Vachana, of course, the greatness of a Shiva Sharana cannot be seen, like iron that absorbs water, like turmeric that absorbs intense heat, like a camphor that absorbs fire, like air that envelops the spaces. Can you explain this in words? If you try to understand, there is no sense. If you try to remember, there is no mind. To His greatness that include my Ajaganna, I bow in reverence. Of course, common people cannot understand the greatness of Shiva Sharanas, the devotees of Shiva. So, as we do not understand the iron which absorbs water, we see that iron absorbs the water, but we don't know how it absorbs water. We don't know how turmeric absorbs intense heat. Of course, even today we use turmeric as a medicine, as a remedy for so many diseases, for so many ill wills. It absorbs heat. That is one of the characteristics of that turmeric. And of course, camphor absorbs fire. When camphor catches the fire, it absorbs the fire and it produces the fragrance. We can feel the fragrance, but we cannot know how it produces the fragrance, how it absorbs the fire. Of course, that air also envelops the space. We are in the space, that air is there in the space, but we don't know how it is absorbed in the space. So, brother, can you explain this in words? Or is it possible to explain this in the words? That means it is not that much of easy to explain these things in words. If you try to understand the sense in it, you try to remember that in your mind, of course, then only we can come to know a little bit about those things. So that Ajaganna tries to make her understand these things through the wisdom of yoga, through the wisdom of mysticism. Of course, that is the greatness of Ajaganna. Ajaganna is famous for his yoga, for a sense of yoga, for understanding of yoga. Everyone knows yoga, but the practice of yoga is not that much of easy. But Ajaganna was excelled in that yoga experience and practice and mysticism. So for that, Allama Prabhu revered him very much. So that is why here Muktayakka respected her brother for this teaching, for this learning, for this imparting this to her. That is why she felt she was very lucky, and so she bore him in reverence. Then another vachana: do not speak bad words, do not do bad deeds. How does it matter whether you speak or you are silent? If you can keep your woe, that is a great act of wisdom, I say, Ajaganna. Of course, she tells that we, that is the men or women, should not do, should not act badly, should not do bad deeds, should not speak bad words. If you do not do bad acts, I do not speak bad words, then it is not the matter whether you are silent or you speak. Because your action itself shows what you are. It may not have been expressed in the words, but your action shows it. That showing it in action is very important. That nade, that act is very important. Then of course the words. So action and words should go hand in hand. But action is very important. What is acted, that should be expressed. That is what Vachanakaras, that is what devotees of God generally do it. So if you keep your woe, of course that itself is a great act of wisdom. We think of this wisdom or that wisdom, but if you maintain your woe, good woe, with good deeds and good words, that itself is an act of wisdom. So I say Ajaganna. So with the signature of Ajaganna, she completes her vachana. So this shows to what extent women participated in the 12th century of common era in the history of Kannada language and literature. Of course, at that time that cannot be seen in other languages and literatures. At that time, English literature was not yet opened its face to the world. Even English language and literature was not yet known to the people, not yet known to even scholars. At that time, we have such an experience, we have such an expression in the language of Kannada literature that shows to what extent Kannada language and literature is grown at that time. If we go through these expressions, it is clearly seen, it is clearly experienced, it is clearly understood. So, like this Muktayakka being a mystic, expressed in her vachanas, that mysticism, of course, it is a form of, she used a form of elegy without knowing it is an elegy. You know, now we talk of elegy in literature, especially elegies in the history of English literature are very famous. And they think that such elegies are not found in other literature. No, that is wrong. They don't know what is there. If you don't know, you cannot say that is not there. It is there, but we don't know. It is there in the language of Kannada, language and literature, before so many years. You see, that we can see in the Vachanas of Sharanas and in the history of Kannada language and literature. It shows the personality of Muktayakka. Now we talk of liberty, equality and fraternity. What we talk today was already tried and achieved to a great extent in the 12th century of Common Era in the Sharanas movement. That is what here we have to keep in our mind while studying literature in general and literature of Kannada language in particular. I think I have tried to bring home the truth, what is there in these Vachanas. What is the eternal truth expressed in Vachanas? How women poetesses, how women composers contributed to the development of Vachanas, etc., etc. So, subscribe and share, and see you in the next episode. Namaskar.